During the 1950s, reports about hypnotized U.S. soldiers being controlled by enemy forces circulated around the world. From this media coverage, the term brainwashing was popularized in American culture. The idea of mind control also frightened the public on the silver screen in the 1962 political thriller, The Manchurian Candidate.
Now let's start unlocking a few doors.
In 1959, Richard Condon's novel, The Manchurian Candidate, quickly became a hot property for adaptation into a movie, even before hitting the bookshelves. Rights to the story were ultimately acquired by writer George Axelrod and director John Frankenheimer. Frank Sinatra became involved in the project, cast as Bennett Marco.
When you became part of it, it became a real movie. I mean, without you, we wouldn't have had a movie.
Thank you very much.
No, but that's true.
Lawrence Harvey was brought on to play Raymond Shaw. Angela Lansbury was cast as Raymond's mother, and Janet Leigh as Rosie.
If we may proceed with the demonstration.
In 1952, a U.S. Army patrol is captured and brainwashed by Soviet and Chinese forces during the Korean War. The patrol is programmed to believe one of its members, Sergeant Raymond Shaw, is a hero.
You like him a lot, don't you?
Raymond Shaw is the bravest, kindest, warmest, most wonderful human being I've ever known in my life.
But at the film's outset, Raymond is shown as an unsympathetic figure that his men greatly dislike.
It's just our Raymond, our lovable Sergeant Shaw.
The captors also program Raymond as an assassin, capable of killing anyone he is ordered to. To demonstrate the power held over Raymond's mind, the communist agent giving the presentation, Dr. Yen Lo, instructs Raymond to kill 2 members of his patrol. The patrolmen are returned to America, made to believe it was through Raymond's efforts that they defeated the enemy forces. While Raymond is given a hero's welcome, we are introduced to his dominating mother Eleanor and his stepfather, U.S. Senator John Iceland. They are both presented as strongly anti-communist. Raymond dislikes his mother and stepfather and lets them know he's accepted a job with a newspaper in New York.
Research assistant to Mr. Hoban Gaines.
Hoban Gaines? That communist?
He's not a communist, Mother. As a matter of fact, he's a Republican.
After some time of Raymond settling back into life in the United States, the communist agents begin instructing him over the telephone by providing a trigger sentence.
Why don't you pass the time by playing a little solitaire?
Once reaching the Queen of Diamonds during his game of solitaire, Raymond's mind is open for commands.
Normally conditioned American, who's been trained to kill, then to have no memory of having killed. Without memory of his deed, he cannot possibly feel guilt.
The communist agents also discuss that Raymond will eventually be handed over to an American operator. But before this handover happens, as a test, Raymond is instructed to kill his boss at the newspaper.
But for his own protection, he must be instructed that if he is ever, at any time, discovered at the scene of an assignment, this other person or persons must also be killed.
While Raymond is being used as an assassin, other members from the patrol, such as Major Bennett Marco, are having nightmares about being brainwashed. Major Marco pays a visit to Raymond and finds out it's not just him having the dreams. Marco's efforts lead to a joint intelligence investigation into the patrol's brainwashing. With Major Marco keeping an eye on Raymond, he opens up to Marco about his past, talking about falling in love with Josie Jordan, daughter of a Senator, Thomas Jordan. When news of this relationship reached Raymond's mother, she forced Raymond to stop seeing Josie, saying her father is a communist and that he stands for evil. Raymond explains that he obeyed his mother and stopped seeing Josie. While Major Marco continues his efforts in figuring out Raymond's mind control, Raymond is paid a visit by his mother, who now wants to reunite Raymond with Josie at a costume party she'll be hosting with Raymond's stepfather. But during the costume party, we find out Raymond's mother is the American operator working with the enemy.
Why don't you pass the time by playing a little solitaire?
Before Raymond receives his instructions, he gets a visit from Josie. The two quickly reconnect, run off, and get married. Eventually, Raymond's mother programs him to commit another murder, this time of Josie's father, Senator Thomas Jordan. Raymond also kills Josie. The death of Senator Jordan allows Raymond's stepfather to become nominee for Vice President of the United States. Major Marco is finally able to break through Raymond's conditioning, but the final objective is still not known, taking a risk that Raymond could still be programmed to kill. Marco allows Raymond to leave so he can receive his new instructions. Raymond's final instructions from his mother are that he is to shoot the presidential nominee while giving a speech. This murder will allow Raymond's stepfather to move in and take the presidential nomination. Major Marco is unable to stop Raymond, but Raymond doesn't shoot the presidential nominee. Instead, he shoots his mother and stepfather. When Marco arrives in the room, Raymond says he had to stop them, then shoots himself. The film ends with Marco reflecting on the tragedy of Raymond's life and death. The story for The Manchurian Candidate is a very compelling one, slowly revealed, keeping the final assassination plot a mystery for most of the film.
I tell you, there's something phony going on. There's something phony about me, about Raymond Shaw, about the whole Medal of Honor business.
One of the more memorable parts of the film is its portrayal of the brainwashing dream sequences. Major Marco's dream begins by showing that he and his patrolmen are attending a garden club meeting, which was programmed into their minds to cover the truth about where they are, in Manchuria, having their minds manipulated. The scene mixes elements of the fake garden club meeting with that of the actual brainwashing demonstration, giving a sense of the chaos inside Marco's mind.
Now then, comrade.
May I present the famous Raymond Shaw?
Young man, you've flown 8,000 miles to this dreary spot in Manchuria to see. Raymond, pull your chair over here by me, please.
The film also does well in exploring the tragic life of Raymond Shaw, a character trying to forge his own identity, seemingly unable to make personal connections with people, except for Josie. He comes across as constantly tortured by the controlling interests of his mother, but seems compelled in remaining loyal to her.
You know that my entire life is devoted to helping you and to helping Johnny. My boys, my two little boys.
Frank Sinatra does well as Major Bennett Marco, who's dealing with his own personal issues, trying to maintain his composure and sanity after being brainwashed during the Korean War. But it's the performance of Angela Lansbury that stands out the most.
Rallying a nation of television viewers into hysteria to sweep us up into the White House with powers that will make martial law seem like anarchy.
Her portrayal of Raymond's mother is absolutely cold-hearted and sinister, which is a stark contrast from the role she became most known for later in her career on the long-running television show Murder, She Wrote. Also of note with the casting of Angela Lansbury as Raymond's mother is that she is only 3 years older than actor Lawrence Harvey portraying her son.
In the book, there's quite a big thing about the incestuous relationship between the mother and son. But somehow, the way she played it at the very end, she implied it very subtly and very effectively, I thought.
One character underutilized in the film is Rosie, played by Janet Leigh. Leigh, most known for her role in Psycho, is given billing above Angela Lansbury in The Manchurian Candidate. But her character is merely a supportive figure in the life of Major Marco, with minimal screen time. Her performance in the film is solid, and her character does help Major Marco recenter his life. But she could have been given more to do in the film. When Richard Condon was writing the fictional story for The Manchurian Candidate, American intelligence was conducting their own real-world secret experiments on human subjects. From the early 1950s and into the 60s, a project codenamed MK-Ultra was run by the CIA. This project has received attention from a number of authors and journalists, including writer Tom O'Neill.
It was a mind control program, a brainwashing program. The CIA was trying to learn how to control people's behavior without their knowledge.
The project included behavioral modification experiments, testing psychoactive chemicals on American citizens.
They did these drug tests on prisoners, hospital patients, Johns, hippies, people that had no idea that this was going on for 25 years.
In 1973, Then CIA Director Richard Helms ordered the records of the MK Ultra program destroyed, but some documents survived the purge, leaked later in the 1970s.
Their main objective was to create what they called hypno-programmed assassins, people who would kill on command through drugs and hypnotism and have no memory of their programming. They were also trying to create couriers, people, military people that they could implant messages and deliver messages and then have them wiped from their memory in case they were captured. The CIA admitted that they had done this, but no one would say exactly what they did.
While the full extent of the MK Ultra project will likely never be uncovered, it is known the program was not contained to the United States. Secret experiments were also conducted in Canada.
Experimental drugs, including LSD, were administered to human guinea pigs. The patients were never told that their treatment was part of a CIA experiment.
These experiments were exposed in the early 1980s on Canadian television.
They kept you asleep for 23 days, and while I was asleep, they were shocking the heck out of me with electric shocks and playing tapes over and over. I don't know what was on the tapes yet, but we're going to find out what was on the tapes.
The Canadian research took place at the Allen Memorial Institute in Montreal and run by a Dr. Ewan Cameron.
His aim was to wipe the mind clean. Then he would implant new messages by forcing the patient to listen to a hypnotic repetition, as many as 250,000 times.
He was an authoritarian, ruthless, power-hungry, angry man. Not very nice.
It's not entirely clear if Dr. Cameron knew his research was being funded by the CIA, but what has been revealed about his methods is, to put it mildly, deeply disturbing.
With some patients, Dr. Cameron tried a drastic treatment called depatterning. Massive doses of electroshock, 20 times more intense than the standard shock treatments used today, were administered to patients who were kept sleeping for days. Dr. Cameron thought he could wipe out patients' sick behavior and leave the healthy personality intact. But first patients were to be so depatterned that some even forgot their toilet training.
There was no informed consent, especially as regards the use of LSD, perhaps, or the depatterning. I doubt if those patients knew what they were being led into.
If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, share the video, and subscribe to this channel.